Are we ready for Dreamforce? Yeah! Woo! So I'd like to start with a round of just introductions. Could you tell us a little bit about your role and what you're working on in your companies?
My name is Brad Rutta. I head up marketing and customer experience for Berkshire Hathaway's travel protection product, so travel insurance.
Thank you.
I'm Bill Pieroni, the CEO of ACORD, the global standard-setting body for the insurance industry.
Awesome.
And I'm Mahendra Nambiar. I lead our solutions and innovation group for Capgemini Insurance.
Thank you. So I'd like to start by asking, can you talk a little bit about what you guys are doing that's different in the way you're engaging with customers?
Yeah, so for us, it's really about use of data in a way that can impact or better our customers' experience while they're traveling. For us, we're taking in flight data that we can aggregate. We take in weather patterns, different things that are all looking at what could impact a traveler while they're on their trip. And in real time, we're able to monitor that and then feed that into our customer service environment that allows us a proactive outreach to servicing a customer with a travel scenario or travel mishap that's happening. Because of the way we've set up our systems and done so in a very unique and cloud-based way, we're able to really reshape and revolutionize what was a very archaic experience when it came to purchasing travel insurance. Your claims are handled in minutes, and our goal is always to pay someone while they're on the trip, whereas previously it was 45 days after you got back from your trip where you handed all the paperwork and all the receipts in. That's not the experience that customers want to have today. So it really, for me, your question is intelligent use of data to better that experience for anyone.
Love that, thank you. You called out a few other additional points about going digital, some themes around being more proactive, taking paper out of the process, being more real time. Bill, you work with a large number of different insurers, different lines of businesses and so forth. What kinds of patterns are you seeing around digital?
At ACORD, we have 900 carriers globally. Right. If you've seen one carrier, you've seen one. They vary profoundly, whether it's life or property and casualty, direct, independent agent, captive agent, personal lines, small commercial, large commercial. For life, there's an infinite continuum of term and whole and variable and all the rest. So each and every one of our members is almost all on a journey to digitization. Some of them are at the early stages in terms of digital strategy. Some of them are implementing it in islands and pools. Some are thinking about digitizing the enterprise. I think that the only commonality is that it's increasingly on the radar screen of the C-suite, but frankly, they're at all various stages of capability maturity. I know there's a panel in the afternoon.
Yes.
I'll be a part of that one. I'll talk about those stages, but it's so hard. For those of us that are part of the insurance industry or serve the insurance industry, it's very difficult to say where do they sit.
Right.
Because in the end, what's your strategic intent? What's the historical context of your insurance organization? What operating context are you executing within? It will mean and manifest itself in very different ways. I don't mean to be evasive. I just don't want to crystallize it around one or 2 points because they're all so different.
Got it. At the outset, one of the things that I noticed that I had mentioned is that digital transformation does begin with the customer in mind, right? I mean, that's why we are all here, right? Mahendra, Capgemini has conducted studies on the wants and needs of the customer. Could you comment a little bit about some key findings from that, and in particular, even some of the generational differences that exist between current customers and the next generation?
Sure. So are we going to?
Sure.
So there's a couple of quick data points, right, just to ground everybody in terms of why we're talking about digital being so important. So these are a couple of excerpts from our World Insurance Report that we publish annually. And every year we measure positive experiences that customers face across different generations and different channels. This year, a lot of the customer experience actually trended positively. But if you actually break down the segments, what you'll see is in what I think is a fairly important Gen Y segment, you're seeing a fairly sharp decline. And this was actually a decline across from a global perspective that you can kind of see. So we actually dug a little deeper into this to also understand their channel usage. And what you'll see on the channel usage is their channel usage from a digital perspective is extremely high, is much higher than the traditional insurance customer. So as we think about the importance of digital and the need to reduce friction from the value chain, which I think is a lot of what Madhu and you were talking about, is this becomes increasingly important, right? Because if that channel is going to be used for quote and buy and service, if it isn't frictionless, it's going to lead to them leaving and trying somebody else that will give them that experience.
Right. What are you seeing, Brad,
Yeah,
among your customers?
For us, it's really unique because a customer may start in one channel and go to another. And when you're in an emergency situation like travel, you're standing in line, you're waiting for that gate agent to either upgrade you or not, get you moving on to the next destination. You're going to try whatever methods you want to get it happen. I mean, that's it. So you might be tweeting at us, looking for an option. You might be on the line with Delta or American or United as you're waiting there, and then waiting in line to talk to the agent. So our travels will use whatever methods, and we have to actually seamlessly pass that data and those conversations, because all of a sudden, if we're able to help out, if we've already gotten through, we need to know what they're doing. We need to be able to say, I can take that data from email, from social, wherever they're talking to us from, and move it into our customer service representative who's now talking to them on the phone.
Right.
And that exchange, those interactions are pivotal in saving time and a place in line when you're talking about getting on the next flight.
We often hear in our business that millennials behave a little differently from the older generation. Are you seeing any differences in terms of adoption? And
we have a very strong millennial adoption. It's because we've built our entire platform on a mobile. You can pay a claim, you can buy, you can do everything from the mobile application. The ability, web chat is probably our predominant method of communication when it comes to customer service, and that's actually mobile web chat that's happening through the app. So it just, our product and our offering and the way we've positioned it fits with that traveler well.
Right.
But it's not exclusive to them. My boss always likes to say he's got a young son who's 13. He's like, if I don't know the technology, who better? Because I mean, he's tweeting me, he's Snapchatting me. I have to know the latest apps just as much as a 13-year-old.
Sure.
So I think we've all become what I like to call a digital elite traveler. Most of us are using our mobile phone and passing through the airports through a device, and that's what I think of as our core audience.
Got it. So we spent a lot of time defining the problem, defining the needs of the customer, and I'd like to shift gears to talk a little bit about the solutions, right, that you guys are developing. And Brad, did you have any examples of some interesting stuff that you're working on right now at Berkshire Hathaway Travel Protection?
Yeah, so for us, it's all around speed to claim payments, right?
Okay.
And I think what's really interesting, and we're always looking at new innovative ways that we can pay. We started off with a PayPal type of solution. We partnered with MasterCard to be able to pay to the debit card network. For us, it's thinking about what's next, and mobile payments is probably the hottest topic that's in tech right now. Okay. So we're looking at new ways, different ways that we can disrupt and make the payment process and speed quicker, because we were talking backstage, most of our claims are small dollar claims. for us to actually run it through an entire comprehensive process, it's less cost effective for us than to just pay it and pay it quickly.
Right.
So we actually save on our admin costs, which allow us to keep our premiums low and allow the traveler to have a great experience in the process.
So, Bill, so we've talked about new ways to engage with customers through things like telematics. We've talked about claims processing. In your experience working with so many different insurers, what additional projects should the audience be thinking about as they're building out their strategic roadmaps?
Well, from ACORD's standpoint, over time, insurers have been fairly diligent at automating and digitizing individual components of the value chain. So there was a big push around rating, pricing, and underwriting, claims digitization, marketing, and CRM. And what we're having and the demand we're seeing from our members is across the entire value chain, that seamless flow of information and data in order to support things like data and analytics, ecosystem integration, so the idea that you would disaggregate your value chain and focus on where there are unique sources of competitive advantage, and consumerization, that pull demand from the marketplace.
Right.
So one of the things we are seeing is that there's a real need. What ACORD's doing is taking our standards, developing and identifying the underlying business processes, mapping all the standards to them as well, providing solutions in the form of increased software assets as well as services to help with its implementation. So those are the types of things that we're seeing. The one thing I would encourage the consultants and vendors in the room is approximately 60 to 70% of insurers say they have a digital strategy. Let's assume that they in fact have that digital strategy, although you could be critical and look at it and say it's fundamentally not a digital strategy. One of the most important areas, the essence of strategic intent, is resource allocation. If you say that your strategy is digitization or improved claims efficiency and effectiveness or consumer insight at the moment of value or on underwriting pricing, are you in fact allocating resources, critical mass of high skill, high will people and investment? Oftentimes that strategy is not followed up with a truly transformational resource allocation plan in order to help to sustain and drive that type of change, because this is transformational. It's not incremental. Drucker said incremental change is oxymoronic. That's especially true in the digitization imperative.
So you've alluded to a couple of ingredients of success for digital transformation, right? You've alluded to, I think what I've gathered is executive buy-in at the strategic, at a high level.
Sponsorship and leadership, and leading by example as well. And
ACORD also seems to be focused on foundational capabilities, right? From a technology perspective. What additional ingredients of success would you want to recommend to the audience that they need to keep in mind?
Yeah, I mean, as an industry, we tend to attract people who are risk averse. I mean, 80% of premium dollars in P&C go towards loss payments, so we're always trying to be risk averse. The culture within most insurers is risk averse, right? Return the system back to normality, get it towards the median. This type of change really moves many organizations outside of its comfort zone. And change at an industry level oftentimes occurs by the exit of existing and the entry of new. We as an industry need to serve our clients, serve our shareholders, serve our consumers around reducing the barriers to change. And that begins with culture, begins with resources, and it begins with fully identifying what needs to occur. By our very nature, we are risk averse, and I worry more about culture. There are two types of problems. Problems that money can solve and problems that money cannot solve.
Right.
This isn't about throwing money necessarily at the problem. Underlying our organization tends to be a consistency, a recalcitrance around change. That, I think, is going to be key around who's going to succeed in this space.
Mahendra, Capgemini has done some work around identifying the key components of digital transformation projects. Some of them pop out at me as being other additional ingredients of success. Did you want to speak to a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, the point that you brought about culture is really the first place to start, because digital is not about investing something in a front office channel or distribution transformation. It's really about a different state of mind, right? You have to have a digital state of mind to remove that friction from the value chain. And that's really, I mean, culture is at the heart of it. if you can figure out a way to build it almost ground up with the right culture, a lot of the times the digital initiatives that we see actually work much better, and they don't tend to break down in different silos and things like that. So the way we look at it, we have a kind of a pillared approach for driving digital transformation, and that's kind of been our experience working with insurers and other financial services companies. A lot of that experience is fairly transitive in nature. What we see in banking is kind of similar to what we see in insurance, is actually oddly somewhat what we see in retail. So it's a lot about that culture shift, but it's also about management intensity. That leadership intensity is really, really the key to driving that type of change, because the technology, quite honestly, exists. It's not really a technology issue. It's really about having the right leadership intensity and drive to allocate the right resources and push the model forward.
So I want to talk about the future with the time that we have left. And Brad, BHTP had the benefit of not being burdened by legacy systems and the things that the likes of AIG would have to deal with. Looking towards the future, what are some of the things that you guys are working on, and what would the industry look like 5 years from now?
Yeah, so you're correct in the sense we built our platform on top of Salesforce. Even our policy admin, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, all exists on the Salesforce platform. So it allows us to be nimble and to quickly adapt to new trends into the market, which is a benefit that a lot of other companies don't have. Where I see things going from us in a travel perspective is continued use of intelligent data. So right now there's really no great baggage tracking softwares and things that are out there. There's some solutions, and every airline's got their own thing, but those are things that for us to continue to auto-adjudicate claims, make things faster, we got to continue to find it and adapt to those new trends.
Got it.
For me, something that's really interesting, and I really think the blockchain movement of payments is going to revolutionize insurance startups. They're not going to be bogged down by old processes, and they're going to be nimble. I think you're going to continue to see companies like Lemonade standing out with a customer experience that really disrupts the entire industry. And as large companies, we have to be at the forefront of all of that as well. So we have to think of those as good competitors that'll challenge our ideologies and make us focus on our customers.
Bill, where will the industry be 5 years from now?
So, having been in this industry my entire life, I don't know that 5 years is actually long enough to see things changing. If I can malign my own industry. However, recently we've begun looking at the top 100 insurers around the world over the last 20 years and ranking them on digital maturity. And we'll see that in the afternoon, at least the maturity hierarchy. And one of the interesting findings that we just found out in the last few weeks is that being in the middle is a very dangerous place, as it is with most industries and most strategies. And so I'm going to argue maybe 5 years isn't the right time horizon, but increasingly we're going to see carriers either being truly digital enterprises and competing on that basis, or I could argue being frozen in the past. For some lines of business, let's say space, for satellite launches, there's a dozen of them a year. Okay, I guess you could be manually intensive. If you're on the floor at Lloyd's, papers will still work. But I think that being in the middle, we're going to see disappear. That half in, half out. Siloed, pools of digitization, pools of information. I don't think you'll fundamentally be able to compete and have superior value propositions for the customers. So that would be the one prediction. I'm seeing the facts supporting that.
Mahendra, where will we be 5 years from now?
I mean, I tend to take
longer.
I tend to take a much more bullish view that change is happening so fast. Really, the thing that's going to push the change even faster is customer expectations, which I think you hinted at the front, right? Because I think customers' expectations are not based on what they see in that industry. It's based on their general experience in the market. And the fact that so many enterprises are investing so much money in improving that customer experience, it's going to push the industry even faster. And things like blockchain and robotics and IoT are great ways to start to accelerate that. And as insurers start to adopt this, you're going to see that push even further. Something you mentioned before about doing a lot of the transactions over chat. I mean, chatbots are going to be the distribution channel next year. Everybody's going to be using chatbots, or they're going to start to struggle from a customer experience perspective. Those types of things are going to move
Got it.
really fast.
Thank you very much. Round of applause for our panel, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much.